Hello, everyone. Welcome to Module 2 of Introduction to Pragmatics. Last time, we talked about how context helps us understand what people mean when they speak. Today, we're going to dive into a specific part of that, deixis. Think of deixis as the linguistic version of a pointing finger. It's how language helps us pinpoint things like who's talking, where they are, and when they are saying something. The word deixis actually comes from a Greek word that means to point or to indicate. This concept is so fundamental to communication that it's like a built-in GPS for our conversations. Welcome to our class. Today, we're diving into Module 2 of our Introduction to Pragmatics course, which is all about deixis and distance. It might sound a bit technical, but I promise you it's one of the most practical and fascinating parts of linguistics. Let's get started. Let's look at a simple example. I'll meet you here tomorrow. On its own, this sentence doesn't make any sense, right? You would immediately have questions like, who is I? Who is of you? Where exactly is here? When is a tomorrow? Without knowing the specific context, who is speaking, where they are, and what day it is, the sentence is completely meaningless. This is why deixis is so important. It's everywhere in our daily conversations and is crucial for effective communication. This module will help us understand deixis by breaking it down into a few key areas. By the end of this discussion, you'll be able to define deixis and its categories. We'll learn the main concept and the system used to classify deictic expressions. Analyze different types in sentences. We'll look at how these expressions work in real examples. Explain contextual pointing. You'll see how deixis references specific entities based on the context. Differentiate person, spatial, and temporal deixis. Will distinguish between the three main categories. Interpret social implications. We'll explore how the words we choose can reflect our relationships with others. Deictic expressions are words or phrases that can't be fully understood without knowing the context of when and where they were said. Their meaning changes depending on who is speaking, where they are, and when they are talking. Let's look at the three most common types. Person deixis, I. This refers to the people involved in the conversation. The meaning of I shifts with each speaker. When I say I, I'm referring to myself. If you say I, you're referring to yourself. Deixis, here, this points to a location. The meaning of here is always relative to the speaker's location. If I'm in the classroom and say, I'll meet you here, I mean this classroom. If I'm at the library, here means the library. Temporal deixis, now, this points to a specific time. Now refers to the moment the word is spoken. If I say, let's start now, in the morning, I mean this morning. If I say it in the afternoon, it means this afternoon. Deictic expressions have a few key characteristics. Context dependent, like a chameleon, the meaning of these words changes to fit their surroundings. They are only fully understood based on the speaker, location, and time of the utterance. Reference point, they create a deictic center, which is basically the speaker's perspective. All other references radiate from this central point. Universal feature, deixis isn't unique to English, it's a core part of all human languages and is essential for clear communication all over the world. The deictic center, also called the origo, is the zero point from which all deictic expressions are interpreted. This center is made up of three key elements. The speaker, who is talking. Their location, where are they? The time of utterance, when are they speaking? For example, when I say, I am here now, the deictic center is me, I, my location in this classroom, here, and the present moment, now. If one of you said the exact same sentence, the meaning would change completely because the deictic center would shift to you. Sometimes, we can shift the deictic center away from ourselves. This is called deictic projection. It's a pretty cool and sophisticated part of how we communicate, as it allows us to point from someone else's perspective. Let's look at the difference. Standard origo, if I say, I will be back in 5 minutes, the deictic center is me, the speaker. Projected origo, now, imagine I write that same sentence on a whiteboard as a note for you, I will be back in 5 minutes. The deictic center is no longer the person reading the note. It's me, the person who wrote the note. You have to mentally project yourself into my position to understand the message correctly. While there are technically 5 categories of deixis, we'll focus on the main 4 to build our foundation in pragmatics. Person deixis, pronouns like I, you, and they, that refer to the participants in a conversation. Spatial deixis, words like here, there, this, and that indicate location and distance. Temporal deixis, expressions such as now, then, yesterday, and tomorrow, that point to specific times. Social deixis, language that shows the social relationship between speakers, like using titles or different levels of formality. Person deixis is probably the most common type we use every day. It involves pronouns that refer to the people in a conversation, the speaker, the person they're talking to, and anyone else being discussed. First person, words like I and we. These refer to the speaker or a group that includes the speaker. For example, in the sentence, I am happy to see you, I is the first person. Second person, words like you and your. This refers to the person or people being spoken to. So in our example, you is the second person. Third person, words like he, she, it, and they. These refer to people or things that are not part of the current conversation. For instance, they said he was coming refers to people who are absent. The pronoun we can be tricky because it has 2 different uses. Inclusive we, this includes the person or people you are talking to. For example, if I, your teacher, say, we have a quiz today, that we includes both me and you, the students. Exclusive we, this excludes the person you are talking to. For example, if an employee says to a friend, we, the employees, get a bonus this month, the we only refers to the employees and not the friend. The friend is excluded from the group. Spatial deixis, also called place deixis, helps us talk about location and distance. It uses words to show how close or far a person or object is from the speaker. This distance can be both physical and psychological. Proximal expressions are for things near the speaker. For example, please hand me this book here. Come over here is an invitation to move toward the speaker. Distal expressions are for things far from the speaker. For example, as I mentioned, distance isn't always physical. It can also be psychological. We use spatial deictic words to express how connected or disconnected we feel from a situation. Psychological closeness, we use this for situations we feel a connection to, even if they aren't physically close. For instance, you might say, this situation we're dealing with is challenging, to show you're emotionally invested in it. Psychological distance, we use that to indicate a feeling of disconnection, especially for past events. For example, someone might say, that happened a long time ago, to show they've moved on or feel detached from the event, even if it was recent. Temporal deixis, or time deixis, helps us point to specific times. These expressions only make sense based on when the person is speaking. Temporal deixis includes both explicit time words and grammatical tense. Past reference, these are distal expressions, as they refer to a time that is distant from the present. For example, yesterday we had a long meeting, or I walked to school, using the past tense. Present reference, these are proximal expressions, referring to the time of the utterance. For example, now is the perfect time, or I am walking to school, using the present tense. Future reference, these are also distal expressions, as they refer to a time that is distant from the present moment. For example, I will call you tomorrow, or I will walk to school, using the future tense. It's important to remember that not all words related to time are deictic. Some can be used in a non-deictic way, meaning they don't depend on the specific moment of utterance but instead refer to a general or abstract period. Deictic usage, "I saw him yesterday," is deictic because yesterday refers to the specific day before I spoke that sentence. Non-deictic usage, "Yesterday's heroes are today's forgotten," is non-deictic. Here, yesterday doesn't mean a specific day on a calendar. It means a general time period in the past. Social deixis uses language to show the social distance or closeness between people. It reflects our relationships based on things like status, power, or familiarity. Honorifics and titles. We use titles like Dr. Reyes or Ma'am to show respect for someone's position or age. Formal language, using formal language, like "Excuse me, may I ask a question," demonstrates a respectful distance. Informal language, using informal language, like "Hey, can I ask you something," shows familiarity and closeness. Social deixis doesn't just show relationships, it can also reflect and reinforce social hierarchies. The way we talk to someone might be different from the way they talk to us, and this asymmetry highlights their position. Classroom context, a student might say, "Good morning, ma'am," to a professor to acknowledge her authority. But that same student would say, "Hey, what's up," to a classmate, using informal language to show they are equals. Workplace context, an employee might address their manager as Mr. Dela Cruz, while the manager might address the employee by their first name, John. This difference in address shows the organizational hierarchy. This is the most crucial point: all deixis is meaningless without context. When we're listening to someone or reading a text, our brains are constantly working to figure out the deictic center so we can understand what is being referred to. Without context, if you get a text message that just says, "I am here now," it's completely vague and unhelpful. You don't know who "I" is, where "here" is, or what "now" means. With context, but if you know that your friend John sent it at 2 p.m. while he was waiting at the library, the sentence becomes perfectly clear. The context tells you that "I" is John, "here" is the library, and "now" is 2 p.m. In everyday life, we often use multiple types of deixis together in a single sentence. Let's analyze a more complex example. We need to meet there tomorrow to finish our project. Person deixis analysis. "We" is likely an inclusive pronoun, referring to both the speaker and the person they're talking to. "Our" reinforces this shared group and shared responsibility for the project. Spatial deixis analysis. There is a distal spatial expression. We can only understand it if we share the same knowledge of the location. Is there the school library? A coffee shop? We need shared context to know. Temporal deixis analysis. Tomorrow is a temporal expression. Its meaning depends entirely on the current day. Without knowing what day the sentence was spoken, we don't know what tomorrow means. Understanding deixis is a sophisticated pragmatic process. Our brains have to do several things very quickly. Identify the deictic center. We first figure out who is speaking, where they are, and when they are speaking. Access shared knowledge. We draw on our mutual understanding of the people, places, and situations involved. Perspective shifting. We mentally put ourselves in the speaker's shoes to accurately interpret what they are saying. Contextual integration. Finally, we combine all this deictic information with the broader conversational context to get the full meaning. Modern technology creates some new challenges for understanding deixis. Things like text messages and emails often lack the immediate cues we get from face-to-face conversations. Challenges. We can face issues with delayed messages, unclear time references, missing location context, and ambiguous social cues. Adaptations. To solve this, digital platforms have added features to help us. We now have things like timestamps, location tags, emojis to show social cues, and organize conversation threads to preserve the necessary deictic information across time and space. To wrap up, understanding deixis is a key part of becoming a skilled communicator. As you continue your studies in pragmatics, remember these essential points. Context is everything. A deictic expression is meaningless without knowing the speaker, their location, and the time they are speaking. Multiple types interact. We often use person, spatial, temporal, and social deixis all together in a single sentence. Cognitive sophistication. Our brains have to work hard to interpret deixis, constantly shifting perspectives and using shared knowledge. Universal yet variable. While deixis exist in all languages, the specific expressions and how they are used socially can vary greatly from culture to culture. By understanding these concepts, you'll be more aware of how language works and become better at navigating the complex landscape of human communication. Thank you for listening. I'm happy to take any questions you might have.